Well, ladies and gentlemen, dark times may be looming ahead. Yesterday I went on stream and I went over basically all of the Warlock changes and things that we're getting in Phase 3 Season of Discovery. However, there was one thing that was Datamined that just caught my attention literally maybe an hour ago, thanks to the guys at the Warlock Discord. And boy, is it a doozy. Let's jump into it, as you can probably tell by the title of the video. So on the screen here is a screenshot of the Datamined tooltip for the Soul Link talent, which is the capstone talent at the bottom of the demonology tree. And as you can see, the tooltip states, when active, a percentage of all damage taken, normally 30%, by the caster is taken by your imp, voidwalker, succubus, incubus, or fell hunter. In addition, both the demon and the master will inflict more damage. Lasts as long as the demon is active, but in the brackets you see, cannot be used while metamorphosis is active. And I gotta say, to be honest, I hope this isn't true. I hope this does not go live with Soul Link not being able to be used in meta. Now, there is some silver lining here. We can talk about it when we go into the demonology tree. If by chance we cannot use Soul Link while in metamorphosis, this, I guess, does free up our use of demonic sacrifice, which, depending on the pet that's out, will give us a nice boost in either our fire damage if we sacrifice the imp, some health percentage back if we sacrifice the voidwalker, some shadow damage if we sacrifice the succubus, or 2% mana back if we sacrifice the fell hunter. I know it's not, obviously it's not Soul Link, right? But like I said, normally you really wouldn't be pressing this button in like a raid scenario, because generally speaking, you want the pet out. If you're running machine gun imp, you want the imp out doing damage, you want blood pact active, so on and so forth. But if you're just trying to, I guess, parse or push a boss or something like that, you could, really sacrifice your pet and get a nice little damage boost. The other part here is that demonology, even if you can't use Soul Link, isn't completely dead. We still have the master demonologist talent, which I'll mouse over here. And outside of the imp, you can still use it to give yourself a free 10% physical damage reduction when you max out all the talents if you choose to summon the voidwalker, or a 10% increase to damage done if you have the succubus active, or an increase in your resistances with the fell hunter. So we still have the master demonologist active, giving us some passives, some pretty good passives with most of the pets. So there is that. We just don't get the super giga 30% DR as long as the pet is active. And I gotta say, I think the only reason Blizzard would do this is probably because they see a world where Warlock tanks are just really too tanky. If you look at the landscape of the tanks right now, no other tank really has that powerful of a passive, right? Like Warriors have defensive stance, which is just a 10% DR, but it's at the cost of a 10% damage reduction, whereas Soul Link is a 30% DR and a 30% damage increase. So it's not even, it doesn't have any negative trade-offs. I guess the negative trade-off is having an active pet. If your pet dies, it's incredibly difficult to get your pet back up, especially if you're actively tanking. So I guess that is the trade-off. But yeah, Soul Link is 20% better than defensive stance, right? It is better than bear form in combination with meta. It's better than, just a flesh wound. So maybe Blizzard sees a world where having meta and then having Soul Link is just too strong of a combo. But I think there's a way to bring this more in line with the other tank auras than just straight up removing it. Like, you can put it down. Instead of giving 30%, it can give 10%, right? They can give 10% and no damage increase if you have meta active, right? They could do that. They could have it. They can go to 15, even though I think to bring it more in line with the other auras, I think they'll probably go 10 if they choose to nerf it, right? So there are ways to circumvent the removal of Soul Link, right? You don't have to remove it. So I'm hoping that this does not go into effect come Phase 3. But if it does, like I said, there are a little bit of a silver lining here. We can use demonic sacrifice for all that it's worth, I guess. We still, if you really want to spec into the demonology tree, we still get some pretty strong passives by the master demonologist talent. So all is not lost, but man, is it going to feel bad not having Soul Link. And the last thing I'll say about this before we get out of here is that as a Warlock tank, I might be a little bit biased, but I'm just going to say this anyway. As a Warlock tank, we don't really get any cooldowns for being a tank, right? Our major cooldown really is meta in and of itself. And even meta only gives armor and crit immunity. Whereas some of the other tank auras give kind of better passives. As an example, like I said before, defensive stance gives you a 10% DR, right? On top of not warlocks, but warriors already wearing plate. So it's a big physical boost, right? Shamans get a 10% DR in Way of the Earth and a 30% health increase. Rogues get a 20% physical damage reduction. Paladins don't get a flat DR, but they do get Hand of Reckoning, which improves their Righteous Fury, and it gives them a threshold DR, because when they go below 35%, all damage is reduced by 20%. Warlocks don't have that. They don't have any passive DR outside of the massive armor boost, which is good, don't get me wrong, it's pretty good, but that's all it is. There's no health boost, there's no avoidance boost, there's no passive DR, it's just an armor increase and a crit immunity. And for the most part, all the tanks can have a crit immunity. The block tanks, as long as they're blocking, can't be crit, and then druids and rogues have crit immunity. I don't even want to talk about druids because they get survival of the fittest, which is a 20% DR on top of their massive armor and health pools. So I don't really understand why Blizzard was thinking about, because it's not official yet, so I don't want to, I don't want to let my fury out on them yet, but it's not official yet, so I don't know why Blizzard would decide that meta and Soul Link can't be used together, especially since we were able to use it in phase 2. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, to take it away from people, that really doesn't make sense. But we'll see, I guess, next week, once we're able to actually play phase 3 and see how the talent combos come together. But for my demonology warlocks out there, it's not all doom and gloom. We can still be demo if you really want to. It's just we won't have Soul Link if this goes live. Hope it doesn't, but we'll see. But that's it for the video, guys. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And as always, you've been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.